Shiraz, city of the poets Hafez and Sa'di, mother of Persian genius and sanctuary of poetry and philosophy. Shiraz, place of singular mosques, built in expression of the Shia doctrine of Islam. Shiraz, where mansions set in the midst of splendid gardens confirm that it is the home of Persian culture. But a simple house with an upper room in a quiet corner of this old city is more important by far than any of the great mansions. All Baha'is shall visit here, for God has ordained, for those who are able, that they shall go on pilgrimage to this very house of the blessed Bab. This is the house of Sayyid Ali Muhammad, the primal point, the martyr prophet and herald, whose day every prophet hath announced.
And when, obeying the command of pilgrimage, the believer approaches Shiraz from the north through the Allahu Akbar pass, at that first view he may cry out, God is most great, at the exceeding beauty of the city. At that place too the pilgrim may utter with fervor his prayer of tribute to that blessed city, as the Persian Baha'is have done for generations. The Spirit of God and His splendor, and the glory of God and His praise rest upon thee, O thou the city of God, the habitation of His names, the repository of His attributes, the fountainhead of the outpourings of His grace, the source of His bounties, and the dawning place of His effulgent splendors, which have encompassed the entire creation. I bear witness that out of the bosom of thy soil hath shone forth the one who is the primal point, the beauteous image of the ever-abiding, the mystery of His ancient eternity, the all-embracing Word of God, His irrevocable decree, and His well-guarded secret. The gate of the Quran is a fitting entry into Shiraz, for was not the promise Ga'em manifested therein? The room above the gate enshrines a massive Quran, placed there to bring the blessing of peace and the knowledge of the will of God to those entering the city. Beyond the gate spreads Shiraz, an expanse of low buildings. In their midst, the sacred house, where began the supreme spiritual drama of our time.
In the year 1844, from the port of Bushehr on the Persian Gulf, came another pilgrim, afoot, guided by spiritual intuition, to Shiraz. In this spot, where yesterday stood the Kazarun Gate, Mullah Hossein Abu Shruye met a youth of radiant countenance, Sayyid Ali Muhammad, and was invited to his home. Walking through the crooked street, they passed by the Ilkhani Mosque, where Mullah Hussein's brother and nephew awaited him. Traversing the narrow cobbled lanes of the obscure Shamshirgaran quarter, they came to the door of a modest house. At a knock, an Ethiopian servant opened the door, whereupon the Bab, addressing his guest, uttered the Quranic verse, "Enter therein in peace, secure."
Today the pilgrim passes the door, and, rounding the corner, enters a dwelling which has been prepared to receive the pilgrims to the house. The pilgrim emerges into its courtyard. He crosses to a door which pierces the far wall, glimpsing for the first time the charming small court of the Blessed Bab's house. At this wondrous threshold, some of the friends, giving thanks for the bounty of attainment to this sacred spot, may even wish to bend in homage or kiss the shallow sill. The courtyard of the Bab's house is tiny, with a diminutive pool and an old orange tree planted by the Bab himself. On 3 sides are the rooms of a simple U-shaped dwelling. In the corner at the left is the household well, which still supplies cool, sweet water. Standing at that threshold, with a feeling of unutterable joy, one's eyes turn upward to the fateful upper room where, long ago, the Bab entertained his honored guest. Across the narrow court and up 3 steps, into the side hallway. At the left is the room of the Bab's widowed mother, empty save for a lingering memory of her presence. To the right of the hallway, the Bab's narrow sitting room opens onto the courtyard through ceiling-high windows. Adjacent is the interior living room, once occupied by the Bab's beloved wife, Khadija Khanum. The back stairway is steep and narrow, typical of Persian houses of that day, but it rises to the place of revelation. At the doorway of the room, the pilgrim may pause, as do the Persian believers, to recite a prayer revealed for this holy place.
Ashhadu bilisani wa nafsi.
I testify with my tongue and my soul, with all my heart and my limbs, that this is the spot before which all the denizens of his kingdom, and beyond them the inhabitants of the realm of creation, bow down in adoration. This is the spot where every day the inmates of the crimson chambers sweep the threshold clean, and the company of his favored angels dust it with their locks of spirit.
Through this door the Bab entered and made his learned and esteemed guest at home. Seating themselves, the Bab poured the water for Mullah Hussein's ablutions, then offered him a refreshing beverage and himself prepared the tea, after which they shared evening prayers. About an hour after sunset, the Bab began to give to Mullah Hussein the proofs that he was that man of unsurpassed holiness, whose cause would be initiated by none other than the Lord of the age. Beneath this ceiling sat the 2 young men, he who was the new revealer, and he who was the first disciple. On that lamplit evening, the blessed Bab presented clear proofs of his mission, and confirmed the teachings of Sheikh Ahmad and Sayyid Kazem. In that room, he revealed what was to become the initial chapter of his first, greatest, and mightiest work, the Qayyum ul-Asma. This commentary on the Surah of Joseph from the Quran predicted the divine Joseph, who was soon to fulfill the promise of God. On that night of nights, at the 3rd hour after sunset, God's new manifestation broke bread with his disciple, and the night fled away to dawn in the outpouring of the new revelation. It was the dawn of arousal of all men from their spiritual slumbers, the hour when the voice of Gabriel from the tongue of Mullah Hussein cried out, "Awake, for lo, the morning light is broken, and the promised one is come." Then, as daybreak became sunrise, Mullah Hussein, the Babul Bab, the gate of the gate, transformed, bemused, left his beloved, and descended the 9 steps up which he had come the night before, that supernal night which marked the coming of a new spiritual age. At the foot of the stairs he stepped through the door into the humdrum street. The great adventure of a new faith was begun, utterly compelling, gloriously dangerous, at stake the future of mankind.
I am the promised one. I am the one whose name you have for 1,000 years invoked, at whose mention you have risen, whose advent you have longed to witness, and the hour of whose revelation you have prayed God to hasten. Verily I say, it is incumbent upon the peoples of both the East and the West to obey my word and to pledge allegiance to my person. I am